It's Monday, that means it's time for a Halo Q&A. So for those of you just joining us, the rules are very simple. Leave your Halo-related questions in the comment section below, and they may show up on next week's show. So guys, we're going to kick this week off with a question from Dr. Trigger, who says, Halo Q&A. After watching this latest Q&A, I got an idea regarding the REQ system and how one might get what one wants without this whole random number generator bullshit. If they bring back REQs for Halo 6, I think they could expand on the Reach credit system, as in there being an armory of all the different REQs one has to unlock, and you'll be able to use credits to purchase X amount of shotguns as an example. People may or may not have had this idea in the past, but regardless, I hope you take the time to read. Oh, and none of this bullshit with getting armor bits and bobs and REQs. Shame on you, 343. That was honestly the nail in the coffin for me, as one had nothing but that one REQ to chase after in Halo 5. Halo 5 made me basically stop playing Halo, but people like yourself keep the franchise alive and fresh in a sense, so I just wanted to let you know how freaking awesome your channel and your content is. Keep it up, man. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Trigger. And so, to answer your question, I do agree with you. I think that adding in like some kind of like economy in Halo 5 would work a lot better than just leaving everything to chance with like random number generators and stuff, because, you know, Reach's multiplayer, I may not have liked the gameplay too much, but I can't deny that I thought Reach had the best system for unlocking armor. Basically, if you guys didn't know, in Halo Reach, as you played, instead of just kind of unlocking stuff or unlocking the ability to open up a gold pack or something, you get random stuff, you basically got money, and then you could spend that money on whatever you wanted in the armory. And I do think that for Halo 6, if they are to bring back the REQ system, I do feel like that would work a little bit better than just having gold packs and bronze packs and stuff. What they could do if they wanted is, okay, so if Microsoft is enforcing microtransactions into the game and they need to find a way to do it, well, give us the money system from Halo Reach, so essentially if we want, we can just like buy a bunch of saws or a bunch of shotguns all in bulk. Or if we wanted to, we could open up gold packs and stuff. Like, we could take our hard-earned credits, and we, instead of just buying the specific weapons we wanted, we could try going into the random number generator and rolling for even better weapons and stuff. Just something like that. Like, or maybe if you even want, have the variant weapons and stuff. Like, all base weapons we can buy right off the bat. They're not in the random number generator or anything. But then if we want to get special variants, like the Saw, for example, if we want to get the Answer, then we have to roll a gold pack to see if we can get it. Something like that. And definitely I do agree with you. I do not think it was a very smart idea to put the armors in the REQ packs, because it kind of like takes out the fun of unlocking new armors and stuff. And it doesn't help that there are over 200 armor sets in the game, and just so many of them look the same. It's just, when I see somebody running around out in the open, and they're wearing something like the Helljumper armor, how do I know they didn't just unlock that in their first gold pack? You know, it's all random and stuff. Like, wearing a legendary armor like Helljumper means nothing because it's all so random. But, you know, I hope that answers your question, man. So we're going to move on to a question from Aaron Club, who says, Halo Q&A. So at one point you were talking about making Halo games with a completely different setting and protagonist, and I had an idea. What if they made a series of games about the Human-Forerunner War, like with the ancient humans and whatnot? It would be really interesting to see the Forerunner Ecumene in its golden age, and what the ancient humans were like. Like, if they could even throw in the Flood if you're playing as human, since you're fighting both, or have you play as both a human and a Forerunner, similar to Halo 2 and 5? Your thoughts? So, Aaron Club, to answer your question, for me, I think I've actually answered this before. I'm not a big fan of the idea of a Forerunner, like, human war game and stuff, because for me, this is just, like, my, personal belief. Like, for me, my favorite part of playing Halo is playing as a human, experiencing all this crazy alien stuff, like, visiting alien worlds. Like, one of the reasons, actually, that I loved the original Halo trilogy is how close to real life a lot of the UNSC designs were. Like, obviously, there's some stuff that are very, very futuristic, but for the most part, it all looked believable. Like, Sergeant Johnson, for example, with his, like, BDUs and stuff. When I was younger, my dad was in the Air Force, and I think he still is, actually, but I remember when I was younger, I'd be in the living room playing with my toys early in the morning, and seeing my dad come downstairs and getting ready for work, and he was wearing, like, his camouflage, he even had the same hat that Sergeant Johnson wore and stuff, and playing Halo, like, I knew that kind of, like, society and stuff, being on bases and stuff like that, having my dad's Air Force friends come over after work for drinks or something, like, the UNSC felt very real to me. And so, for me, that's part of what I love about Halo, is being a human in this huge intergalactic war and seeing these incredible alien species and these incredible alien worlds and stuff. So playing like a human in the Human-Forerunner war and being like an ancient human, which honestly is very different from how humans are now, with their alien weapons and stuff and their very distinct way of talking that was specific to them. And like all of their weapons that don't look quote human like we know it now, it would be a bit too alien for me. I might as well just be playing the Forerunners, because the ancient humans are so different from how humans are now. But I won't deny that it sounds like a cool idea, and in fact I would probably like a game like that, because it's just my taste. I like playing as the UNSC in Halo games, but that's just me personally. That doesn't mean that other people might enjoy a game like that. So yeah, I'd love to see a game like that. And so I hope that answers your question. And so we're going to move on to Polka Chief Dude, who says, Q&A, before I begin, I love your channel. Keep up the great work, Late Night Gaming. With the new Project Scorpio thing coming out in the near future, Halo 5 Guardians might be able to run at 60 frames per second easily without having to ever sacrifice visual fidelity. According to 343 Industries, the reason Halo 5 has no split screen is that a constant 60 frames per second would be impossible if it did, right? Well, I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. If Project Scorpio will allow Halo 5 to run at 60 frames per second without having to sacrifice any visual effects, will we be able to finally have split screen? Think about it. If split screen was removed because of the issue it would cause with frame rate, and Project Scorpio removes any risk of 60 frames per second being unlocked, what reason does 343 have to not give us split screen? Just to say, I don't care at all for high frame rates, so I can't speak for anyone but myself. I play EDF 2017 and 2025. Thanks for reading, and sorry for any mistakes. I often overlook those. So don't even worry about that stuff. But I do agree with you that Scorpio could open up the possibility of both 60 frames per second and split screen. Halo 5, I think, was a victim very much of inferior hardware, like 343 setting their sights a little bit too high, being a little bit too ambitious, and honestly, it's not even just 343. Whenever there's a next-gen console coming out, usually whenever developers are moving to this next-gen hardware, they will be super ambitious. They'll want to do all these crazy things. And sadly, sometimes they become a little bit over-ambitious and their project is a little bit too big for what they can handle. Like, I think of the Perfect Dark sequel for the original Xbox 360, compared to Perfect Dark back in the day, which was essentially a spiritual successor to GoldenEye. Perfect Dark sequel on the Xbox 360, well, yes, it was bigger, it was crazier and stuff. It sadly wasn't as good as the original because the developers, they got too excited about the next-gen hardware and they got a little bit too ambitious. And then even if we want to jump to the Xbox One and Xbox 360, Dead Rising 3. Dead Rising 3, in my opinion, was the best launch game for either console, PS4 or Xbox One. I thought it was the most solid, it had the most offer. And honestly, Dead Rising 3, I think, is an incredible game on the Xbox One. It's actually one of the few games that I haven't just sold on the Xbox One. I love Dead Rising 3, but I won't deny that it's probably the weakest of the Dead Rising games, because it does feel like Capcom set their sights a little too high when it came to Dead Rising 3. They were a little bit too ambitious. They were like, oh my gosh, like, we're going to fit all these zombies on screen at once. We're going to have over 3,000 zombies in any given area at any given time. And, like, they got too excited that, sadly, like, they had to cut certain things. They had to make sacrifices and stuff. And ultimately, the game we got was, well, absolutely impressive as a tech demo for what the Xbox One can do, and honestly, like, a pretty fun open world zombie game. It's just the weakest of the Dead Rising games. And I think that Halo 5 was the same way. 343, they got a little bit too ambitious with what they wanted to do. And ultimately, what we got was kind of a weak sequel. And so, talking about 60 frames per second and split screen, well, I think it's possible. I don't think it's likely, because the Xbox Scorpio, well, yes, it will make Halo 5 run much better. You gotta remember that it's still gonna be Halo 5. It's still gonna be the game Halo 5. Like, they're not going to make its own port for the Xbox Scorpio specifically. What you're gonna do is you're gonna take your Xbox One disc, put it into the Scorpio, and it will run Halo 5 at max settings. Like, it's, in order to implement split screen, they would kind of have to create a dedicated port for the Scorpio that includes split screen. Basically, whatever is on the Xbox One version will be on the Xbox Scorpio, just running with better graphics. That's it. You know, so since split screen isn't a part of the Xbox One version, it sadly won't be a part of the Scorpio version either. I hope that answers your question, dude. So we're going to move on to Captain Forever, who says, hey, Late Night, I was wondering how you feel about 343's fame for listening to fan feedback. I've noticed that when some Halo fans start debating about 343's general reign, that usually is brought up about how much of a good job they do with their fan feedback. Even 343 themselves boast this, but I can't help but feel like the fan feedback gold medallion they wear around their neck is rather unmerited. I feel like most of the improvements they've added in their generation of Halo are just ideas they've thrown around in the thinking corner. And then they shoehorn in some comments about how they've wanted to do it for so long. This coupled with the fact that they seem to ignore or disregard our direct complaints about lackluster staff, something Brian Reed, questionable changes, extreme gameplay overhauls, hollow games with lack of content compared to previous titles, etc., and their unpleasant art style show a severe lack of corporate ears. I was just wondering how you and the older Halo community members feel about this subject. Do you think they've done good with fan feedback, or do you share feelings similar to mine? To me, real fans want, i.e., a proper file share system, improved custom games in Forge, artistic overall, etc., are ignored or tacked on poorly, while prototype mixed bag ideas are created and put on a pedestal. All the while 343 tells us about how they wanted it. By the way, I just found your channel tonight while looking for some news on SPV3, and it's a jovial breath of fresh air from another relatively popular yet incoherent Halo channel. Wink wink, keep up the good work. Well, thank you so much, Captain Forever, and you actually do bring up some good points. Now, 343 does say that they do listen to fan feedback and stuff. They do, and they do, to their credit, they do listen to fan feedback. We wanted the plasma rifle back, we got it. We wanted the Halo 2 BR back, we got it. They do listen to us for the most part, but sadly they are very selective about what they listen to, I will admit. Sadly, I do also think that there are a lot of questionable decisions in regards to the higher-ups over at 343, like Brian Reed, for example. Now, Brian Reed, Halo 5 Story, I've actually talked in the past about how close to release in game language. Like, that doesn't mean months before release, but, you know, quite a few months, maybe a year before release. There was a huge script rewrite, and a lot of the stuff that they had set up for Halo 5 was rewritten, hence why the story that we got feels so hollow and rushed and sloppy, because it kind of was. It was kind of written last minute. And so Brian Reed, it's definitely not his fault. He was forced to do these rewrites last minute and stuff. You know, these are decisions that come up from on high, but the thing about Brian Reed is also, while the Halo 5 story, for the most part, was not his fault because he was forced to rewrite it so late in development, he's also not the best writer in the world. I don't doubt that the story he was creating would have been a lot of fun to play, but he's still not, like, a quality writer, in my opinion. And, you know, it's just kind of like decisions like that, like, you know, Halo, a series famous for good storytelling, and you hire a comic book writer who, for the most part, all of his comics just kind of get reviews. And then another actually really good example of an incredibly questionable, kind of choice of employee is the lead Halo 5 project designer. He was the lead project designer of Killzone Shadowfall. Killzone, yeah, like one of the worst games I've ever played in my life. It's like, and then even that, you know, Killzone is not a very good video game franchise. And Killzone Shadowfall is so bad of a game that even the Killzone fans think that it's the worst Killzone game. It's like, yeah, let's get that guy on charge and working on Halo, a series famous for being critically acclaimed. It's just, 343 seems to make very questionable design choices and stuff. Like, I really feel like they need to take Halo a little bit more seriously in terms of its legacy. You have to hire the best of the best. Like, you know, Halo needs to be an elite club. You know, 343 needs to be an elite club. Like, only the best game developers possible can work there because Halo has such a high standard set for itself that we can't settle for mediocrity like Killzone developers, if that makes any sense. And to answer some of the other stuff, that, like, I do agree with you that they do seem to focus on things that, like, aren't really important right now, like Warzone, for example. Warzone, I think, is a great idea, but I do think Warzone is in its infancy. Like, Halo 5 was a test run for the possibility of Warzone in the future. It was very clearly the start of something and not a completely well-thought-out game mode, you know, because we see some of the problems with Rex, some of just, like, the weird balancing problems when it comes to the map's designs and layouts and stuff. But I do have to disagree with you with a few things. Well, actually, only one thing. The Forge, I actually think, is the best the series has ever seen. Like, Halo's Forge mode has never been better, in my opinion, and it easily outshines anything the previous Halo games have done. But I do agree with you that, like, you know, the community, we want an artistic overhaul. We want them to return back to how Halo used to look. We want a file share on day one. We want improved custom games options. And it just seems like they're like, hey, you guys want a gold Banshee? Like, you know, like they get all this feedback and stuff, and then they give us like a green warthog or just like a pink warthog that shoots needles. Like, just, you know, it gets frustrating sometimes that they're so selective about what they give us and what they don't give us. But I hope that answers your question. And so we are going to end this Q&A with a question from Chef, who says, Halo Q&A, sorry for any spelling mistakes. First of all, I enjoy your channel because I truly feel like you give honest and fair points, so keep up the good work. Q&A, I'm wondering why has 343 become very dependent on its community. I'm not saying that that's not a good thing, but it's kind of embarrassing that 75% of their maps are Forge created and not made by developers. Also, look at Halo 4. They looked like they had more passion and creativity than Halo 5, from its Easter eggs to its level design to its campaign. So do you think that 343 needs to start using their ideas rather than depending too much on its playtesters? Sorry for a long question, but I hope that you can get to answer this question and keep up the good work. So thank you so much, Chef. And so, to answer your question, I do agree with you that for Halo 5, it seems like they're relying a bit too much on the community for some of their map creation things. And now that's not a bad thing, because Halo 5's Forge tool is incredible and it has created some very impressive stuff. But it's a little bit disappointing that we can't see like beautiful new skyboxes and new maps just like teeming with creativity that were developer made. Halo 4, I do definitely think that Halo 4, to some extent, there was a lot more passion put into the game, and I think it's because 343 was very excited because it was their first game. And you know, it's funny because a lot of people say that Halo 4's campaign is like the worst campaign ever. Like, it's so bad, it's so bad, it's so terrible. The narrative and stuff, say what you will, I think it was easily the best story in any Halo game. I thought it was the best told in terms of characterization and pacing, but in terms of level design, that seems to be kind of like the point of kind of argument in the Halo community. Did it have bad level design and stuff? And, well, Halo 4, I think there are some bad levels in Halo 4. I've actually replayed it recently with a friend, and you know something? Halo 4's level design is not as bad as I think people remember it being. I mean, especially now that we played Halo 5 and it's like every level is the same thing in Halo 5, and there's just weird pacing problems like literally seeing an energy sword in the first level as well as seeing like some of the best guns in the first level, and by the third mission seeing literally every weapon in the game. You know, like Halo 5 has weird pacing problems with its level design. But Halo 4, for the most part, you can respect it for its level design. Every level was different. It was a new gimmick to every level and stuff. I think of the Pelican mission, and then the Forest mission, and then the mission where you're in the Mammoth and stuff. Like, every mission was very different from the last one and took place in a different area. And some of the missions were quite fun and enjoyable, and some of them did feel very much like something from Halo. I think the second mission, when you're on Requiem, and you get the Warthog, and you get to drive around that canyon and stuff while Phantoms are dropping off troops. Like, it's very much Halo-esque, and I do think that to some extent people do really give Halo 4 an unfair, bad rap and stuff, and I want them to, I would like if more people replayed Halo 4 and kind of just analyzed it as a Halo game. Is it flawless? No, it's got quite a lot of problems, but it's certainly not the worst Halo game, in my opinion. And so, for Halo 5, I think that 343, their morale was hurt by just how much the fans wouldn't give them a chance with Halo 4. How it was just, nope, it's the worst Halo game ever, you guys screwed up, rest in peace, Halo. And so with Halo 5, they are playing it a bit safer, and they don't want to risk using resources on maps or ideas that the community is just going to reject like they did Halo 4. Now that, Halo 4 did make a lot of problems in regards to its multiplayer, but that doesn't mean that everything was awful, that literally every single aspect of Halo 4 was awful, because quite a lot of Halo 4 worked, in my opinion. I mean, it's my third favorite Halo game, with Halo CE being my second and Halo 3 being my first. So, I think that 343, they're very much scared of putting in a lot of work and dedication and love into a project and having it just thrown back in their face like Halo 4 was. And also, I do think that a lot of Halo 5, the reason that a lot of maps are made in Forge is because of Microsoft kind of wanting them to push esports and stuff, like exclusively esports, only esports, everything needs to be ranked. We gotta associate Halo 5 with competitive play, because we gotta be like League of Legends, right? You know, we gotta be super esporty and stuff. We gotta have these huge championships with like prize money and stuff, so that Halo 5 can become super popular in the esports scene. And so basically all their resources are being put into designing competitive maps and stuff and hosting Halo 5 esport events across the world. But, you know, I hope that answers your question. And so, guys, that concludes this Q&A. If you have any questions, leave it down below, guys, and I'll see you all on the next video.